financial problems, elder law, criminal law, tax problems, business matters, divorce, personal injury, bankruptcy, your life, your reality. Life is complicated. There is the law and there is reality. Welcome to Law and Reality, sponsored by THAV GROSS. Now here's your host, Ken Gross.
Welcome to this segment of Law and Reality. Today's topic is not so fun, preparing for a recession. On the bright side, Pat Simasko's not here today, but Kelsey Simasko is.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm giving you first greeting.
Ooh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Now I'll rewind. Good morning, Brian Small.
Good morning, Ken. It's an interesting topic that we're hitting, considering the United States government is basically forcing us into a recession.
Pause. This is just good mornings. Good morning, Jeff Linden.
Good morning, Ken.
Okay, now rewind.
Considering that the United States government is basically forcing us into a recession, people need to know what it's going to take to be prepared. And
So, I mean, is there some politics here? The United States is forcing us into a recession?
Absolutely.
Is that because to fight inflation? Or do you think, or is there an ulterior motive that the United States wants the United States to be in a recession?
But if you look at what the goal of raising the interest rates is, it's to cause unemployment, and it will lead to a recession. And the desire is to drop inflation, and then unemployment will balance itself out.
The goal of raising interest rates is to increase the cost of borrowing, to cause prices to go up so that demand would go down. And as a consequence...
Prices to go down.
As a consequence, you have an increase in unemployment.
Well, that's one person's way of looking at it, but the reality is
you don't have an argument that we need to cure inflation, do you?
No, we absolutely need to get inflation under control, but it's going to lead to a recession. It has to. It's a cyclical thing.
So you, Brian Small, with your economic background and being an advisor to several presidents of the United States, are predicting definitively that we are going to have a recession. I'm just trying to pin you down on this.
Well, the president's part isn't accurate, but I do have a degree in economics, and
well, he advises Washington.
Are you predicting with certainty that there'll be a recession? Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right, we have his position.
He advises Washington and Lincoln and Jackson because they're in his pocket.
Jackson?
Occasionally.
Jefferson.
I thought you were going to say because he was around when they were surveying. I was going to say, man,
No,
that's
no,
off the
no,
cuff.
Thank you. I'm not that much.
That would usually be directed to me. Do you have Franklin in your pocket?
Not today. I think I have Washington in my pocket. That's about it at the moment. There's a recession coming. I'm saving it elsewhere.
You may very well be right. I'm not convinced definitively that it's going to happen because even though they're predicting it, I have lost faith I have gained confidence in having no faith in those predictions.
But whether a true
it's a resiliency
recession,
of the economy.
Whether a true recession actually hits, the average American is still going to feel the economy acting like it's a recession
Already.
and they already are,
so
so they have to prepare for it.
Agreed. Let's look at some current internet information on that. DS News on April 13th. Homeowners increasingly worried about economic conditions. 85% say the current persistent rate of inflation makes them worry about their ability to pay their mortgage. 78% are worried about interest rates. 73% are worried about medical and healthcare expenses. 64% job security. 59% are worried about the ever-present threat of natural disasters. I suppose about the only people that don't have to worry about natural disasters right now are Michiganders. We seem to be outside of the tornado belt, knock on wood, outside, or
Like,
laminate,
what are you
knock on, outside of the hurricane belt, outside
That's
of
it.
fires.
That's what he did it. We're going to have a
Right.
hurricane and an earthquake here in the Detroit metropolitan area sometime.
We have had earthquakes.
Yes, we did.
Remember we
couple.
had that one? I remember like that tree was moving right there, and it wasn't moving. It was the building.
Yes.
And I said, "That's really strange."
Yep.
But then I left for my appointment, and then I heard on the radio, "Yes, we're having a little earthquake." It was maybe 5 years ago. All right, 2023 credit card statistics. Same thing, updated this month. As of the end of the last year, we were at $986 billion in credit card debt.
That is a record.
It's a record.
It is a record. It is higher than we were at before the COVID epidemic.
which was
hit.
927. But the biggest alarming statistic in that is the $61 billion increase in credit card debt from the third to fourth quarter. In one quarter, we went up 61 billion. If that pace continues, we're going up at 240 billion a quarter. So we're probably
Mid-year,
already
yeah.
today over $1 trillion in credit card debt. They just don't have the number tabulated for the end of the first quarter yet. So that's a lot of money. And the rate on the credit cards is way up because of the increase in the interest.
I think that the average new issued credit card is close to 22% interest.
I can imagine the retail ones are like at 32%.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. And the thing is that the credit card debt is increasing massively, and what's not catching up is the minimum monthly payment. The minimum monthly payment is still set at 2.5%, but if the interest rate raises 5% and
You won't even be paying down principal.
you're only paying 2.5% of the overall debt, you're never touching the principal. And
Because if you're at 2.5%, that's 30% interest. So if the rate goes above 30%, then your balance is going up. They won't
Yeah.
let that happen.
no, so be prepared that your credit card minimum monthly payments are probably going to adjust up in the next year or so.
We need to look at some retail credit card statements to see, because the retail credit card interest is higher. I wonder if they have bumped the minimum payment to at least make it so that the principal is not going up. They may not.
Don't know.
That's the so it's going to. So not only are interest rates up, but the credit card balances are going to skyrocket up, and that explains part of that bump. Let's take a break. We'll look at the rest of the impact of the pending Brian Small predicted recession.
Are you in financial crisis? Do you owe too much credit card debt? Are you behind in your mortgage? Do you owe the tax man? These are the problems that many people face. Solutions exist. If you want to know what they are, come to our free seminar June 7th in our offices in Bingham Farms. Sign up at thavgross.com or call us today at 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP. And take your first step to a fresh start today.
Tax problems are major problems. Don't let the IRS levy your wages and seize your assets. There is a solution.
We're THAV Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
If you're behind on your taxes and owe money to the IRS, call THAV Gross.
We've been solving tax problems for 32 years. We stop wage levies, resolve unfiled returns, and obtain the best possible settlements.
Call THAV Gross today, 888-235-HELP.
I was married for 57 years before my husband died.
Simasco Law had established a trust for them before this happened.
There's so much to do in the beginning, but after about a month, you're kind of alone.
We deal with estate planning and trusts every day.
If you continue to have good support and know that your finances and your estate is in order, that's one thing that's so comforting. I would just highly recommend Simasco Law.
Is the debt piling up? Struggling to get by?
It's all about preserving future income. Bankruptcy is one option. When it's right, it's the least costly, most effective way to save your home, eliminate a second mortgage, and wipe out credit card debt. But you need to address the problem now.
We help people with bankruptcy. Call the experts.
We're THAV Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP. You can't work. You have to deal with pain and stress. Worse yet, our system for applying for disability benefits seeks to deny you the benefits you're entitled. Jeff Kirschner is an expert in obtaining disability and workers' compensation benefits for his clients. You need to call Jeff before you apply or after you're denied to get the benefits you deserve. 888-235-HELP. 888-235-HELP. If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
THAV GROSS specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
We're THAV GROSS. Our firm will solve your problem.
Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call THAV GROSS.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call THAV GROSS. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
All right, so back on interest, just to throw in a little tidbit because I couldn't resist in reading the article. It had the rankings of who has the highest amount of credit card, with the average highest amount of credit card debt per person. Michigan came in 31, which I thought was nice, and that average is $6,744 per household. So who's number one? Connecticut, 9,400. New York is 2, 9165.
Those numbers are an anomaly.
Because
that's the average, right? There's a whole bunch of houses that have nothing, and there's a whole bunch of people that have $50,000 worth of credit card debt.
True, and the other anomaly there is the average per capita income in Connecticut and New York, I would venture to say, is much higher than in Michigan.
Substantially higher than Michigan.
Who's number 50? Kentucky, 5408, 49. Indiana, 5643. Just to put it in perspective. All right, so a couple articles, and I want to look at what the articles say to prepare for recession, and then what do the gurus of law and reality have to say about that? Okay, so the Ascent, that's a Motley Fool service website. Even though on this site, I'll qualify it by saying they were pushing a credit card as part of their.
Of course they were.
Real motivation. But they raised a couple points. Take stock of your financial situation. What's the gap between your income and expenses? If you lost your job tomorrow, can you cope? I think those are legitimate points. Prioritize your emergency fund. You should have 3 to 6 times your living expenses per month. Keep separate from savings.
So that is the biggest factor here, that when you read that 60% of America can't come up with $400 for an emergency, and it says that you should have 3 to 6 months worth of,
and it should be separate from your savings.
From savings,
which means
3 to 6 months worth of monthly expenses to be able to cover to cover unemployment, a medical event that keeps you out of work, because remember most long-term or short-term disability doesn't kick in at least until 90 days, if not 180 days after you've been
plus there's a delay in getting your money. Yeah.
So then you've got all of this, and people say 6 months in the bank that isn't savings. It really should be a year.
It should be a year, but that's my reaction to both of these points. Is they want the gap between your income and expenses, and the article is with the idea of, because your income should be higher than your expenses, then you take that gap and you use that to create your monthly fund, and that should be apart from your savings. But there's so many people here that the gap is 0 or negative. Right. Because their expenses are exceeding their income, and they're funding the differential with credit card debt. And if they lose their job tomorrow, the answer is no, they can't cope, and they don't see any money that they can create an emergency fund from. That's probably the majority of working America.
Which is why I push the concept of budget management so hard, because most people, if we can get their credit card debt eliminated, can learn to live within their means rather than living above their means.
Good point. Well, there's two more things on this, and I'll go right to you, Kelsey. This is pay down high interest debt and take steps to make your career recession-proof. So go ahead, and I want to talk about that.
As you had said that, as we see, the gap is getting smaller and smaller, and as incomes aren't increasing and, prices are increasing, cost of living is increasing, what are those people supposed to do when there's nothing that they can create this emergency saving plan for?
Well,
they've got to cut back their expenditures somehow.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's not an easy thing.
So it's between food and your emergency fund?
No, it's not. See, that's where people make the mistake. It's not between food and your emergency fund. The average person wastes so much money on things that they spend that they get no satisfaction out of, that they can't remember that they spent it the next day. The simplest one is a lot of people eat out at lunchtime.
Well, let's replace eating out with a student loan payment.
So student loans are controllable as long as they are government-backed student loans with the income-based repayment programs that exist. By applying for those on an annualized basis, the Biden administration currently is proposing new income-based repayment strategies that allow for as little as 5% of what they consider to be your disposable
What about the
income.
people who have, their student loans with Sallie Mae, these private lending?
So we mean like the Discover or
because they had to tease their interest rates.
So the world of bankruptcy does allow you to control those student loans through Chapter 13 and repay what you can afford. And there's some. Wait! No. There's more. And currently, there's a movement within the Department of Justice to allow for the discharge of government-backed student loans that hasn't existed, and it's a new thing since January. It's not. It's
stay with the concept, but try and bring it back to the topic, because what we're trying to do is create an emergency fund.
Right.
Because we're talking about recession-proof. We're not talking about bankruptcy. That's why.
So
let me make a point.
Get rid of the debt and then live within your means, and you can create your emergency fund.
But let's be specific about the emergency fund. So the person who is in a situation where their income and expenses, they can hardly make ends meet right now. They're really spending more than they're making. How do they create an emergency fund? Do we tell them stop making your loan payments, stop paying your credit cards, and stash the cash? Or do we tell them take your cash advances from your credit cards, take that cash, stick it in the bank so you have an emergency fund? Your credit cards they're gonna cut you off anyway, so take that money and stop paying the credit cards. What's the real advice you give someone if a recession is coming and they've got zero cash in the bank? If they lose their job, they have no money coming in for food and housing and transportation. That's the point I want answered when we come back from the break.
If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
THAV GROSS specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
We're THAV GROSS. Our firm will solve your problem.
Tax problems are major problems. Don't let the IRS levy your wages and seize your assets. There is a solution.
We're THAV GROSS. Our firm will solve your problem.
If you're behind on your taxes and owe money to the IRS, call THAV GROSS.
We've been solving tax problems for 32 years. We stop wage levies, resolve unfiled returns, and obtain the best possible settlements.
Call THAV GROSS today, 888-235-HELP.
Time for announcements. We have a free seminar coming up Wednesday, June 7th, 6 to 7:30 p.m., The Debt-Free Feeling. This is about how good you feel. It's actually an endorphin that once you become debt-free, your life takes a different perspective, and the seminar focuses on how to accomplish that, how to become debt-free, how to reposition yourself to save for retirement, solutions using bankruptcy, solutions outside of bankruptcy. The key is getting rid of the debt. Attendees receive a free copy of my book, Dump Your Debt. Call 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP, or register online at lawandreality.com. Remember, you can always come in for a free consultation. Just call 888-235-HELP or go online and sign up. Debt issues, tax issues, estate planning issues, business issues, elder law issues with Pat, disability issues with Jeff. Sign up at lawandreality.com or call 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-4357. Also, go online to our website to get our free reports. Resolving Tax Problems, The Real Solutions. Bankruptcy, Is It Right for Me? How to Save Your Home from Foreclosure. Business Formations, Loans and Grants for Small Businesses in Detroit and Michigan. And The Retiree's Guide to Social Security. I want to thank our sponsors, THAV GROSS, Samasco Law, Kirshner Law. Now back to the show.
Pat was recommended by a friend who insisted that we really needed a trust. And he said, I know somebody who will do a good job for you.
At Samasco Law, we deal with estate planning and trusts every day.
We had excellent service from Samasco Law. Any questions we had were addressed. Our estate is in order, and it had been set up so well that nothing needed to be done. I would just highly recommend Samasco Law.
Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call THAV GROSS.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call THAV GROSS. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP. Is the debt piling up? Struggling to get by?
It's all about preserving future income. Bankruptcy is one option. When it's right, it's the least costly, most effective way to save your home, eliminate a second mortgage, and wipe out credit card debt. But you need to address the problem now.
We help people with bankruptcy. Call the experts.
We're THAV GROSS. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Are you in financial crisis? Do you owe too much credit card debt? Are you behind in your mortgage? Do you owe the tax man? These are the problems that many people face. Solutions exist. If you want to know what they are, come to our free seminar June 7th in our offices in Bingham Farms. Sign up at thavgross.com or call us today at 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP. And take your first step to a fresh start today.
All right, so I want to set the stage. A lot of what we're saying right now is very similar to what happened in the Great Recession. Great Recession, the credit card companies turned everybody off. They said, we're not going to loan you. They cut your available credit down to the amount you owed, so you had no available credit card debt. And all of a sudden, people started losing their jobs. 2-income families became 1-income families, and 0-income families. 1-income families became 0-income. People had no money to pay for anything. Are we looking at that again? If car payments are running $1,000 a car payment, we were just talking about that at the break, and if credit card payments are with 32% interest going up, I think it's within the realm of expectation that the credit card companies are going to be quick to cut you off. Banks are having enough financial problems right now. They don't want to take the losses.
I agree.
So what do you do?
Banks are going to start cutting people
What
off.
do you do for cash?
Well, I can tell you historically when the Great Recession was in place, I looked at my home equity line of credit and I tapped every penny of it and stuck it into a savings account and made sure that I had the cash available in case it hit the fan. Did it cost me something? Sure, it cost me the interest on that money.
But you were sure. And why did you do that? Because you figured they would cut off your equity because real estate values
were collapsing. So
do you see real estate values collapsing to the point where you need to do that?
I don't think so. I think we're going to see we're seeing real estate values come back down from their peaks last October, November.
But I don't see a crash like in the
No.
recession.
I was just talking with a colleague of mine that's in that industry yesterday, and what he's seeing in the industry is that closings are down, but pricing is pretty stable. Pricing has remained stable over the last several.
I mean, my
there's
Zillow
still-
report's not showing a lot of decrease in the
There's
value
still
of my
no
home.
inventory. That's the problem.
Okay,
but
so-
that doesn't
so you don't
protect
have-
the average guy living in an apartment.
You don't have a house. That's right. You don't have a house, so you don't have a home equity line to make a decision to tap or no tap. What do? Do you tap out your credit cards because you think that you tap out your credit cards at 32% interest because you think they may cut off your available credit?
Listen,
it's a hard call.
I can settle your credit card debt, but I can't provide you to keep a roof over your head.
So you're saying tap out the cards, get the cash, don't pay the credit cards.
I didn't say
and then
that.
let's
What
settle
I
the
said
credit cards
was-
later.
It's up to the
your
individual
option.
to make that choice, but recognize that there are solutions to address the debt, but there are very few solutions to address keeping the roof over
I'm
your
going to be
head.
a little bit more bold and braver than you. Okay, is you don't have a house with a home equity line. You don't have any cash in the bank. You have zero savings. You're not sure how stable your job is, and you have available credit on your credit cards, but you're worried that they may cut that available credit off. If they do, you have no income if you lose your job and you have no money. I say in that situation, it's your decision. That's what Brian's saying is, but you need to find cash, and you need to have cash stashed in case you lose your job.
Well, cash
so if
is
you
king.
can't get it, if you can get it from the credit cards, get it there. If you can't get it from mom, you can't get it from dad, and you can't, of course you can't get it from your brother. Right? We all know that. So that's the situation. It's not easy.
Well, Jeff
and
will
it's
also
not
tell you
nice.
not to borrow from your uncle, at least not if his first name is Sam.
Right. That's true.
Do not borrow from Uncle Sam.
Uncle Sam's interest rate's getting up higher. For a while there, it was better to borrow from
better.
Uncle Sam than it was from Chase Bank or Bank of America
Yeah.
because the interest rates were higher.
But here's
No, it's not. Right.
here's the key. Regardless, if you are in that situation, you should come in and have your situation assessed. Let's figure out a plan for you, rather than just putting you're going, oh well, if the world hits, I'll deal with it, because those that plan and are prepared are going to successfully ride out the recession that's coming, and those that don't are going to end up possibly homeless, and that's not the solution that we want.
I mean, it's a very difficult situation, but if you were around in 2010 and 11 and 12 and you saw what happened, you have to make sure that you're not in that level of vulnerability again. We're not looking at a great recession where real estate values fall, but that doesn't matter to you. If you lose your job and you do not have cash to pay for food, transportation, and housing, you're in bad shape, and you need to take steps to prevent that. Have a great week. We'll be back next week with Law and Reality.